In the early part of the 20th century, being a made man in the Mafia was a title that brought honor, pride, and trust. Not anyone can become a fully fledged made man, as certain rules and customs had to be met. Over the past century, we've learned more about the inner workings of the American Mafia, whether that's through mobsters who've become rats or through the FBI infiltration into the crime families. Being a Mafia buff has its advantages because along the way, you learn a thing or two. We've cut out the middleman and done all the research for everything you've ever wanted to know about becoming a made man. We've taken the knowledge passed on to us and knit together the process of how a mobster becomes a man of honor. Do you have what it takes? Find out as we show you. First, to become a made man in Cosa Nostra, you had to be of full-blooded Italian descent. If you weren't, then you'd only ever be considered an associate of the Mafia. You couldn't become a made man if you had any connection to the law, whether you worked for corrections, served as a police officer, or even had close family connected to the police. Before being inducted, a potential made man is required to carry out a contract killing, which is referred to as making your bones. This was a rule only brought into the Mafia in the 1980s. Previous to this, you just needed to be part of a contracted hit, but not necessarily the guy who pulled the trigger. To become made, an associate would first have to be sponsored by a made man. The sponsor must know the associate and vouch for his reliable abilities. A crime family only scarcely accepts new members, and it's in a process called opening the books, which is initiated by the family ready to accept these new members. The associate will then get a call asking him to get dressed and prepare to be collected. The mobster will then be taken to a ceremony room with other candidates. Here is where the mobster will take the oath of omerta, the code of silence. The code of omerta simply means that the mobster should avoid talking or informing authorities about any criminal activity under any circumstances. The result if caught doing so would be death. As for the made man ceremony, each begins with the mobster sitting down at a table, and a made man pricks the mobster's trigger finger to initiate the blood oath. This is usually done by the boss or underboss of the family. The blood from the mobster's finger will then drip onto a picture of a saint, such as the Virgin Mary or Saint Francis of Assisi. The picture is then put into the mobster's hand and then set alight by fire. The picture continues to burn until the oath of loyalty to the family has been completed. The mobster will speak aloud the following oath. As this card burns, may my soul burn in hell if I betray the oath of omerta. Joe Valachi gave the most compelling insight into the ceremony during his Valachi hearings, where we first saw a brief insight into the Mafia, its structure, rituals, and how it works. He went on to say, I sit down at a table. There is wine. Someone put a gun and a knife in front of me. The gun was a .38, and the knife was what we call a dagger. Maranzano motions us up and says some words in Italian. Then Joe Bonanno pricks my finger with a pin and squeezes until the blood comes out. What then happens, Mr. Maranzano says, this blood means that we are now one family. You live by the gun and the knife, and you die by the gun and the knife. A statement that Sal Maranzano would live up to when he was assassinated in 1931. As a made man, you must follow 5 simple rules. The rules are as follows. 1. Be loyal to the members of the organization. Do not interfere with each other's interests. Do not be an informer. 2. Be rational. Be a member of the team. Don't engage in battle if you can't win. The directive extends to personal life. 3. Be a man of honor. Respect womanhood and your elders. 4. Be a stand-up guy. Keep your eyes and your ears open and your mouth shut. Don't sell out. The stand-up guy shows courage and heart. He does not whine or complain in the face of adversity, including punishment. If you can't pay, don't play. 5. Have class. Be independent. Know your way around the world. Made men reap many benefits and have several privileges, which include the full protection and backing of the Mafia. A made man is traditionally seen as untouchable by fellow criminals. a man to be respected and feared amongst peers. To attack, let alone kill, a made man for any reason without the permission of the committee vote, or at least a boss's vote, is classified as a cardinal sin with the punishment of death. However, made men aren't completely untouchable. Approved contracts can be put on their head by the boss of the family if there's a good enough reason. When introducing one man to another, the phrase, "a friend of ours," is used, indicating that he is a member and business can be discussed openly with him. If the person being introduced is an associate or civilian to whom business should not be mentioned, the phrase, "a friend of mine," is used instead. These days, a lot of these rules and rituals have been relaxed, but at the height of the Mafia's power, these ceremonies and traditions were a serious part of a crime family. There was no exception to the rules that must be upheld. Once a mobster becomes a made man, he can rise through the rank of a crime family, from a soldier to capo, consigliere, then underboss, and finally, the boss. In our next series, we'll explain more about the structure of a crime family and an even deeper look into the ways of the Mafia. Stay tuned and keep it locked on the National Crime Syndicate. You're now rocking with the best, NCS Costa Nostra.
Welcome to the Sting of Oz.
The search is over. Every series helps bring you a step closer to the life of the mob without dangerous exposure of what went down, plus Mobster of the Month. Original content if you're searching on a hunt for the who's who or the best dressed guy, the type of guns they use, the feuds and mob wives. We supply everything as soon as you log on to the nationalcrimesyndicate.com. From John Gotti to Don back to Mustache Pete, Big Joe, Al Capone and Maya Lansky. So sit back, relax and enjoy the ride, cause the code of silence here no longer applies. So make sure you subscribe and stay tuned in, cause over here we like to keep this thing moving.